I do want to go through this subject about understanding who and what these giants were, these incredible giants, these Anakim that were around. Where did they come from? Okay, so let's find the location. The only place they're located in Tanach is in Yehoshua, where we just quoted now. Let's find out, and where's it quoted in the Torah? So we have a couple places. One of the places we know is in the end of Sefer Breshit. A very unusual psukim. We read it just because we do Shnai Mikra, and I don't think anyone is Pashup Shat here. I'll try to get a little bit Pashup Shat at least. I'm not going to tell you more than Pashup Shat, but at least we get a little bit Pashup Shat.
I have to study this stuff so I can explain about dinosaurs.
Oh, I might get to there. If you want to expand on my dinosaur, I'm going to give out my dinosaur theory also, B'ezrat Hashem, and you tell me if you have more to say. Senator?
I'm still learning it.
In Perek Vav in Breshit, it says, "Vayiru b'nei Elokim et b'not Adam ki tovot hena v'yikchu lehem nashim mikol asher bacharu." So here we have these b'nei Elokim. Whoa, the children of God. Now, chas v'shalom, this could lead to a lot of complications with other religions that can use this as a horrible, horrible thing. But as the Mefarshim all say, that could be the b'nei Elokim are malachim. They're angels, and I'll explain to you who these angels are and what they're about. B'ezrat Hashem. We'll give you a little bit of story about them, but B'nai Elokim, simply speaking, is angels. Okay, Rashi brings B'nai Sarim, Shoiftim, big people, but that's what it is. And therefore, even though they had women that were normal or human beings, I'll call them, if you want, Ki Tovotenu, but they were very appealed to them. Vaykulem Nashim, and they took whoever Bachru, meaning they weren't such good angels. They did sins. They weren't choosing. They picked out people who were married. They even took married women, which is incorrect. And then, of course, we know that Hashem gets very upset at them. And this is known as Dor Enosh. This is right after the creation. Dor Enosh is before the Mabul, where a third of the population got destroyed. They got flooded, a third of the population. Hashem is giving them a warning. Hello, there's a tsunami. You got a tsunami. Chevra, it's going to get bigger next time. And then he says in Pasuk Dalet, HaNefilim, first time we hear this word, HaNefilim ayu ba'aretz b'yamim hahem. The Nephilim, the giants, were in the Ards during this time period. Ve'gav acharken asher yavo b'nei Elohim el b'not Adam ve'yaldu lehem heim giborim asher me'olam anshe Shem. These names are important. I'll explain which one is. So first we have the Nephilim, and they went into very lovely women that they decided to pick on. And those women gave birth to Giborim, very strong Kebiyochol thing. So that's our first mention of the Anakim. Where's the second place where we have the Anakim? Does anybody know?
Noah.
Noach. It's a midrash about Noach, but I don't think it's a pasuk. Yeah, okay, so we're going to get to that, but that's not a pasuk. Okay, another place where we find, of course, is in Parshat Shlach. The Meraglim go into things. And the majority of their fear, of course they mention Amaleki, are standing over there, and they mention all the problem there. But what's the main problem? Anashim asher Elohimu v'yatziu dibat haaretz asher taru b'nei Yisrael haaretz asher aranu eretz ochelet yoshveihi anshe midot, big people, not good midos, doesn't mean good midos, people that are very tall and big and large and monsters. V'sham reinu et nephilim. Now this pasuk is important. Over here we saw the nephilim. This word nephilim is the same nephilim we saw in the beginning of Parashat Breshit, because they knew nephilim. Everybody knew about those. Should I say dinosaurs? Those big monsters that were in the past. Okay, let's leave it. I just said it's a joke. Right? The Nephilim that were in the time of creation. And everybody knew and had a fear. They said, those Nephilim are still around. Chevra, B'nei Anak, Mina Nephilim. And then they said, B'nei Anak, Mina Nephilim. And therefore we were like little grasshoppers. That famous verse, everyone knows, we were in there. If you put yourself as a grasshopper, if you have a low self-esteem, if you treat yourself like a grasshopper, so then you really will not succeed. But that we're going to mention that soon. One second, let me just say that one more spot where it is also mentioned is Moshe Rabbeinu, when he's giving a sum up of everything that happened. First of all, he mentions how he knocked off Og Melech HaBashan. In the end of Parshas Chukot, we know that he got rid of, that's the war that we were just talking about. And he mentions Arba'im Shana Be'eshtei Esar L'chodesh. He says that I was Maket Sichon Melech HaAmori, Asher Becheshvan, and Og Melech HaBashan, Asher Yoshe Be'eshtrot. Okay? And over there, he says they were living in Arim Tzurot Choma Gavoa Delatayim. They were very fortified. And then he mentions that we got rid of the Arya Bashan at Salcha Ve'edrei. These are the same psukim as we have by us, by the way. Salcha Edrei ad Mamlechet Og HaBashan ki rak Og Melech HaBashan nishar miyeter HaRefaim. Over here is a different word. It doesn't say Nephilim. It says Refaim. Like Lechal Refaim, everyone on the street. Right? So that's how he calls them, the Refaim. Be'inei Arsa Eretz Bazal, he was very big, and he was considered Teisha Amot, and Rashi says Amot is he was much bigger than Teisha Amos. He was much bigger than that. V'arba Amot Rachba, he was a very large person according to these ramifications. Okay, beautiful. So these are our psukim, which teach us about these incredible figures which seem to be Anakim, Nephilim, and Rephaim, and we have to know what the difference is between all of them. Like I said, we only have Rephaim, Baruch Hashem, not so bad. But we have other ones.
What the Rav said, that they were really giants,
yeah.
And they took women. I mean, it's like King Kong, how are you going to have children?
I asked that child about what's for my...
I hear he's saying, what did King Kong want? He also wanted a little woman. He took in her mom.
I asked that child to one of my rebbeim once about how O could have wanted Sarah if it would be physically impossible for him
to be together, right? To have relations.
My Rav said that it had something to do with his status.
Oh, really?
No, seriously.
Oh, that's a chiddush. I think that doesn't have to do with size per se.
Right. So,
I'll try to answer that. I hope I'm going to try to answer that with what we're going to say. B'ezrat Hashem. I think that's not my goal to answer that, but I think it's going to end up being answered also with this. Okay, so that's what we have. Now, these Nephilim, why are they called Nephilim? First of all, and I'll tell you the difference between all of them. But why are they called Nephilim? First of all, let's start with that. So Rashi over here in Pasuk Lamed Gimel, it's really Rashi also in the Gemara. But Rashi Yud Gimel Lamed Gimel Parsha Shlach. Yud Gimel Lamed Gimel Parsha Shlach. Ha'nefilim anakim mibnei Shamchazai ve'Azael shenaflu mina shemayim b'yamei dor enosh. Now this is really a Gemara in Maseches Nida Samech Aleph, and it's a Maseches Nida Samech Aleph, and in Yuma Samech Zayin. Okay, now more or less we know that they were children of two. These Nephilim were children of two big Malachei Chavala, good old is Shamchazai ve'Azael. Okay, those are the names of these two Malachei Chavala. Okay, they were children of them, and therefore they were called Nephilim, that they naflu mina shamayim. Kebiyochol, they came mina shamayim. B'yamei dor enosh, they came as byproducts of Shamchazai ve'Azael. There will be some esoteric, interesting ideas here. So just hold on to your hats if I could tell you. But they fill mina shamayim. That's why they're called Nephilim. Now Rashi in Breshit in Perek Vav, at the end of Perek Vav, says a different pshat. It says, "Nephilim al shem shenaflu ve'pilu et ha'olam," because they caused damage to the world. They were one of the big problems in this world, because when they came here, not only did they take women and cause problems, they also enamored other people to do the same and followed in suit with them. So they caused a lot of damage to everyone around them. That's another pshat of what they were doing. Okay, it's not necessarily because they died, because we see that they're still around later. But when it means a naflu, they were naflu vehi pilu, that they caused a lot of damage into many people. Okay, that's what it was. Seder, that's it. Now there's a lot from. I'll tell you the sefer. There's a sefer called Dad Zakenim to Baalei Tosfot. One of the pirushim on Chumash. There's two that come from the Baalei Tosfot. We have Rashi and Tosfot. Everyone knows Tosfot in the Gemara, right? Everyone knows the Tosfot in the Gemara. So there's Tosfot also on the Chumash. Just like there's Rashi in Chumash, there's Tosfot on the Chumash. Now Dad Zakenim is the more popular one. In the back of the Chumashim, you'll find a Dad Zakenim very often. That's Kenim Baalei Tosfot, but there's also a sefer called Moshav's Kenim, which is another Baalei Tosfot. It's also from the Baalei Tosfot. Sometimes they say some very interesting, incredulous type of things. And over here in Parsha Shlach, they say the Anashim were mitpa'alim. They're called Nephilim from Lashon Pele. There's a Das Kenim. There's a Das Kenim. He says they were called that from the fact that they were Lashon Pele, and the Abarbanel adds, after bringing that, he adds even more than that, it's from Lashon Nefilah. Why? So this already is half what you were asking. He was saying because these women were impregnated by these monster men, these humongous people, and they were small women, and their womb couldn't carry these children. They were carrying monsters in their midst. So they fill out, they had apalot, but they survived. The kids just fill out, they weren't able to live out the whole 9 months, but they were so strong that it's fine. They survived, the child survived in the end of the day, but they filled out early, and they had an early birth, natural birth, because of the awesome weight of these incredible creatures. Okay, so from here we see how big these interesting characters were. Now, like I said, they were children from Shamchuzai. Shamchuzai had a child named Achia, and Achia had a child named Sichon ve'Og. So we have 3 generations, and you should just know that's it. There's 3 generations of these giants. The beginning is what we call the Malachim, or from the Nephilim, which are Sham Chuzai ve'Elazai. After that is Bnei Achia, and after that is Sichon ve'Og. Sichon ve'Og were amongst the ones that were afterwards. Okay, these Bnei Achia, they're considered, they came from Sham Chuzai and Azael, who were like we said, byproducts of Malachim during the time of Dor Enosh, and they caused this nezek. What's interesting is, and that's what it's called in Yuma. In Yuma, and what we see in Rashi over here, they're called, listen to the names, Sham Chazai ve'Azael. Sham Chazai ve'Azael, those are the names of the two Malachim. However, in Yuma Samach Zayin, they're called Uza ve'Azael. Azael has the same name, but this Sham Chazai, his name is really Uza. So Sham Chazai and Uza is the same name with a different thing. Okay, that's the Gemara in Yuma. Interestingly enough, these two malachim are malachei chavala, meaning they're not malachim you want to bump into in a dark alley and late at night. They can do you a lot of damage, and like we said, they caused a lot of damage to the world by coming into this world. I'll speak out the story in a second why. But it's interesting because that's why Uza, hear the words, Uza ve'Azael, what does it sound like together? Uzazel sounds like Azazel, and that's the Sir LaAzazel that we deliver from Mufurish Gemara and Yuma Samazayim. The Sir LaAzazel, which of course we know is a very esoteric idea, it's not for now. I one time gave a shir on in Shabbat Gadol, but the idea of Azazel comes kebiyochol to the Samech Mem. Kebiyochol, it's to get rid of the kitrug of the Yetzer of the Samech Mem, and they are the pinnacle of these two guys, Uza ve'Azazel. These are the two people that are making these issues. Okay, now how did this all occur? So the Zohar in Parshas Bereishis is also, if you don't like Zohars, because you don't want to hear about that, so I'll tell you it's also a Yalkut Shimoni, a little bit Bekitzer, also in Bereishit Mem Dalid, says during the time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was creating the world, we're all familiar that HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked Eitzah from the Malachim, everybody knows, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, so nu, is it kedai to create man? So what do you think, guys? Is it kedai to create man? And so we all know the Malachim answered, Ma Enosh, that was Dor Enosh by the way, Ma Enosh kitis kereno. Ma Enosh kitis kereno. Not kedai, mans are a bunch of chatayim, they're good for nothings, they have free choice, they always make the wrong decisions, they're doing sins, why are you remembering them? You have a perfect world, just make a perfect world, and don't create man, all this free choice, the Yetzaharas, and all these Rishaim that we're going to have. That was the opinion, believe it or not, of Uza and Azael. Uza and Azael said, Ma enosh kitis kereno. They're the ones who said it's not kedai to have them. It's not kedai to have them around. So therefore, after Adam Rishon was choite, after Adam Rishon in Parshas Bereishis was choite, he sinned. So then what happened? They said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, see, we told you. You know, kind of like your wife says to you all the time, I told you so, that's it. I told you that you shouldn't have created this person. That was there, you see what he did? So Kadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, wise guy, as he says, I'm going to send you downstairs. And he sent down Azam and Uziel and says, you take it, you can go down to this world and see how you handle the situation over here. And they went down, and then therefore they were sent downstairs into this world. And when they came down, then the rest is history. As I said, like I told you already before, they weren't exactly the Tzadikei Ador. They were the ones causing damage to other people. They were the ones that in the Psukim that I just read to you in Parshas Bereishis, that they saw a Noshim, a Yafois. That's what Vayiruk B'nei Elokim, according to this Pshat, is the Uza v'Uziel. Et Benot Adam ki tovotenu v'yikhu lehem Noshim min kol asher bacharu, and they were causing a lot of havoc. So Kadosh Baruch Hu Keviyachol proved to them it's not so easy to live in this world, and that's what they ended up doing. What it says over there in the Midrash, by the way, is that one of the women that they liked, in case you bump into her, just so you know, Na'amah, who was the sister of Tuval Cain. Tuval Cain, as we all know, was the son of Cain, and he had a sister, Na'amah. Now that means it was a sister, I assume, from Cain also. But anyways, Na'amah. It could be it was the same Na'amah. Now, Noach was married to Na'amah. It depends on Midrashim. I don't want to get into over details here because it makes us a little bit more. Noach definitely had his wife Na'amah. That's no question. It's just a question. It's the same Na'amah.
Does he say that Na'amah was Rashi's?
Was Tuval Cain. Was what?
In Bereishis, doesn't Rashi?
He already said in Bereishis, says Na'amah was his wife. His name was wife. When the pasuk says Na'amah, they end up saying that was the wife of Noach. Right? That's what he's saying.
The pasuk shot.
Yeah.
But you're saying that in Pushpas.
That's fine.
Rashi is not that way.
No, so far, that's fine. Hashem Shepil, that's fine.
But I thought Malachim don't have Bechira.
Huh? I didn't finish the story about Nama yet. 1 second. Are you asking Malachim?
Yeah.
So when they came down to this world, Kebiyachal, there was a certain amount of Bechira that was listed to them. And second of all, Yisrael Malachim do have Bechira. They have Bechira of Malachim. It's called Bechiras HaMalachim. If you want, there's a whole piece about it in Michtam Eliyahu and the Sefer Chaim. But basically, without going into that also, the Bechira of Malachim is the same Bechira that you have to jump out a 20-story window. You understand? Everything is so clear to them, but they could do it. Harai and Parshas Vayera, they sinned. They said that we're going to get rid of stone, and Hashem punished them for speaking up like that. There's a certain Bechira of a person jumping into the fire. They see the consequences clear as day, so therefore you wouldn't be stupid to make such a decision, so therefore the Malachim don't make a mistake, but they could if they want to. You commit suicide, I don't know. But anyways, that's what happened here, okay? So they fell down. So one of the things is Naamah, who was one of the most beautiful women at the time, she was a very pretty woman, that she was from the Achot. So they actually says over there that they came and they said they want to be choteh with her. They want to be choteh with her. So Naamah said, okay, I understand. I probably don't have much of a choice here. You guys have big muscles. So he says, there's not much to do here. But she said, at least tell me so we could be the same. Tell me the Shem HaMafor. You know the Shemot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. At least be megaled to me the Shemot of Hashem, so I can at least be on the same level as you if you want to get married. So at least we have to do that. And that's why they're porech be'aver, using the Shemot or whatever it is. So they taught her the name. I don't know how they got suckered up into this. And she used the name and she disappeared. And she went ahead and flew away and she was able to escape. That's in one midrash. Another lashon that is in a different midrash I saw is that she actually went and became a mazel. That's why I'm not sure if it's Naamah of Noach. It could be someone else. She turned into one of the masalas, the mazel of Betula. You know, there's a mazel Basula. It's one of the 12 mazalot of Betula, and the Virgin. That's Naamah. Why? She's on the Betula because she saved her skin. She saved herself from falling into a trap by these people. Okay, that's that. Or she was able to get away. Al Kol Panim. That's this idea. Okay, that's the levels of these Nephilim that were Ba'aretz, that came from the Malachim, that came to here. So here, I want to quote to you, very importantly, Rabbeinu B'chai. This will put order, something which I was very confused. I never knew when was Nephilim, Anakim, or Rephaim. It all made me confused. So Rabbeinu B'chai is in Parshas Shlach, and he said he makes it very mesudar, and it's just kedai. If you don't remember anything, at least remember this Rabbeinu B'chai. And that is like this. He says that the Nephilim, there's three things. Nephilim, Anakim, and then Rephaim. 3 generations, grandpa, father, and son. Nephilim were the first generation. The Nephilim were the Roshei Mishpachas Parshas Bereishis. They're the ones that are mentioned in Parshas Bereishis, which are mentioned before. They fell from the sky. These are the big guys. These are the ones who were humongous. And they were the ones who are mentioned over here, that they were the ones who ended up sitting, Shemchazai, Azael, Uzzah. So they had from these women, Tzetzaim, they had children who were very large, but now we're in comparison to them. Meaning every generation, as we know, goes down, goes less. I don't know, by us, the kids are bigger than us. I don't know how that works. Right? All my kids are a tower over me. But it could be because I'm shrinking.
Because the
spirituality. Amen. But anyways, by them, the Anakim started withering in size, if we could say. So the next generation were called the Anakim. Now it's known as Anakim because they were Ma'anik the Shemesh B'tzavareim. The sun, when you looked up at them, the sun looked like it was a necklace around them. So they were quite large, but they still were nothing compared to the Nephilim. They were a step down. And that's they were the next step down that happened after that. The third generation would come after that, and that was the least of the generation, and the last generation are known as the Rephaim. The Rephaim from Lashon Rafui. Rafui is, if I call it weak, they weren't really weak, don't worry about it. You wouldn't be able to beat them in a boxing match. But they were Rephaim compared to everything else. They were nothing compared to their grandfather or their father. They were much more Rafui, a lot less, and those were the ones that were in Canaan. These were the ones that were around in Canaan at the time when they were getting rid of them. And that's what happens. That's the people that were around here. Now from Canaan was Og and Sichon. Og and Sichon are the ones that are over here. Og and Sichon are the ones that are left over here, which of course we know the ones that Moshe Rabbeinu got rid of. They were from the leftovers, Misherit Rephaim. That's the pasuk I read to you here. He said, what did it say in Sefer Dvarim? Kirak og melech habashar nishar miyeter harefaim, from the leftovers. And even so, the pasuk says Arsar Bazel, and he was Teisha Amot, and he was still large, and he was still very big, even though he was from the leftovers of the Rephaim. Okay, so basically what we're doing over here, when we're conquering, we're doing that. So he points out here, Rabbeinu Bechaye, the Ramban, Rabbeinu Bechaye, and Kli Yakar all say this lelame, to teach you the sheker hagadol of the Meraglim. The spies were incorrect. They were not nice. They overdid it. Now, yes, there were giants in Canaan, as we see by us, so Yehoshua had to get rid of them, but they weren't Nephilim. Nephilim are scary figures from Bereshit. Wow, those guys were big men. That's like, came from Malachim, these things. They were serious. They were the Rosh Mishpachot. These were Rephaim, Beseder, half the size. Beseder, they were the size they were half the size of the Empire State Buildings. Not so bad. It's a little bit better at least, but they weren't the thing. And what's the lashon? And he said they point out what's their lashon. They point out v'shamreinu at Nephilim b'nei Anachman and Nephilim, and this is how they say they came to it. They called them. In the beginning they started by calling them the b'nei Anach mina Nephilim. That's so bad. They didn't call them Rephaim. If they called them Rephaim, it would have been less scary. But they said, but they're children of the Anakim. So that's already, it's more scary. But then they said, everyone was crying, everyone was falling for it, and was into, and there was a Bechiyah Shalchinam, and everything was going bad. So then they pumped up the music, and they said, it's also, they're Nephilim, and they went up to the Heiser, and they were Nephilim, which are the worst of the worst. And then they really scared them up. And they said they pulled them up because the more you fall for it, the more the fear is the one that made it all active. It was very similar to what happened in Germany 80 years ago. It was the same type of thing. What he originally intended or not, I don't know 100%. I wasn't really in the council over there with all those Rishayim, with Himmler, but the original idea to get rid of the Jews was not as vicious as it ended up getting. It was to try to throw them out of the country, or kind of, try to give excuses in a court case how to get rid of them and kill them and execute them. But slowly but surely, every time he would do it, he did one concentration camp. No one said anything. Sheket. It was quiet. And it got worse. And he kept doing more and more, and the world, as they say, was quiet. Nobody had to say anything until he realized he could make it Auschwitz, and Roosevelt's not interested in bombing Gornish from Gornish. He said, okay, we have to save our bombs on more important things than Jews. You understand? Everybody was bowing down to this Roosevelt figure, and he was real Russia Gomer. But Al Kopanim, that you see that when they stay quiet, they get worse and worse. That's exactly what happened in Meraglim. The more that people were going with it, it got escalated, it got worse, it got more accentuated, which is one of the ideas which I'm going to mention to you soon, but that's a important idea of what we're bringing out here. Seder? That's that. Having said that, I want to speak out now the next step, and this will connect to what I just said before. You have to follow the pieces here. So we see the three generations, very marshim, impressive people, very large. They caused a lot of havoc. It came from angels, Kebiyochel, that had these types of things, and that's where it came from. Now moving to Shlav Bet in this giant episode. Yes?
You say that Og was hanged to the Tevach North, right?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that soon. I didn't get there yet.
The question is, Sichon the Og, what's with Sichon story?
You're jumping the gun. I'm going to get there. Yeah, I'm on my way. Okay, so we have to speak for history. History, you can't jump history. You're speaking on thought.
I was trying to understand where the Rephaim came from.
Yeah. Okay, it's fine. I'll get there in a minute. Not in a minute, but soon. Holla. Oh boy. Okay, next we find during this time period this interesting phenomenon. People say, wow, you went from an angel to a human being. But the truth is not so bad. Because in this time period, we see the opposite. The Chatam Sofer in Chulin, Daf Samech, brings down, during the beginning of Maisa Bereshit, you had all these funny episodes. Just like you had an angel that turned Kebiyochel into a human, sort of, kind of quasi-human, you had the opposite also. You had a person that actually turned into an angel. You know who that person was? Chanoch. Chanoch turned into Matatz. V'yikachoto Elokim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took him at the young, poor teenager age of 369 years old. He was only 369, poor guy, and he had to die young, and he ended up going up to Shemaim, and he turned into an angel, which is a fire angel, Matat, Kishmai. Can't even say the whole name. The spelling of the name is Mem Tet Tet Reish Vav Nun. That's his name, and you're not even really supposed to name, because they say that's the Shem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kebiyochel. And so we see this contrast that you were able to do these types of things. Now in the Zohar, it also writes an interesting thing, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu saw these angels, and everything that they were doing. And he sent them to Hararei Kedem. Now I'm mentioning this because this is going to get to our next step here. Hararei Kedem is the place that they were sent. Now Hararei Kedem is the same Hararei Kedem which says in Balak, it says in Parshas Balak by Bilam. He said he went to Hararei Kedem. Why did Bilam go to Hararei Kedem? Over there it mentions in the Pesukim about Hararei Kedem. Because Bilam learned everything he knew from Azai v'Sham Chazal. Those two guys over there. Those two guys who caused a lot of damage. All the kishuf that he learned, all the black magic, and all the fancy kishufim sorcery that he knew, and he knew obviously Bilam was the master. The Rebbe was these two angels. They were the two angels that they were going to do, the Uzzah ve'Azal, because they were causing so much damage. Hashem put him in Cherem over there on the side. And then everybody came to them to learn from them. So Bilam, of course, being the master sorcerer, that's where he learned. And that's why it says in the Pasuk, what does it say in the Pasuk when he had, what does it say? Noifel v'gilu einayim, Nofel Fulasha Nephilim. He went to the Nephilim to be able to learn. He went to the Rebbe in order to be able to learn from the thing. Nofel v'gilu einayim. No one heard of that one before. Oh, that's a good one. Right? That's A. You know who else learned from them? It says by Lavan also, it says he went to Eretz Kedem. He went to Eretz Kedem. Also, the Rabbeinu B'chaya brings this, Perek Lamed Aleph. He went to Eretz Kedem. You know what? He also went to them to learn all the black men. We knew that he had the Trufim. He was a man of black magic. He was able to do a lot of fancy stuff. So B'kitzur, we see that they were sorcerers of a lot of sorcery, black magic, anakim. And this goes back to what I said in the end of the last year, just closing up a circuit here. There is a shita, Rav Schwab doesn't mamish say mafurish, but he kind of miramis to it, and I heard Al Peh, that he said such a thing, that they were beings of black magic, meaning their greatness and their bigness was almost an optical illusion. Now they had a certain size, but I think their size was exaggerated based on the fact that a lot of it had to do with kishuv, sorcery, black magic, that had to do to make themselves look impressive, even though it really wasn't like that. And they were sort of a dud. In other words, the Meraglim, the spies over here, they were taken aback. Higdimu peh la'ayin in Eicha. The peh is put before the ayin because higdimu peh to the ayin. They put the peh before the ayin. They spoke too fast. They didn't look well. They didn't look positive, and therefore they didn't look. And the reality was that they were conquerable. We could have done it, obviously, with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But a lot of it had to do with an ayin muta, which wasn't in, and that's an important yesod to always remember, that there's nothing to fear, as it says, except for fear itself. But the more a person has fear, the pasuk says in Mishlei, charadat adam yiten mokish. The biggest stumbling block of a person is this charadat, the fear. They knew that the more we incite the fear, the more we activate the fear. So we knew that we will be able to cause loss, to cause damage, to make us run away and make us lose. And that's why we did not deserve to go into Eretz Yisrael by the Meraglim. It wasn't the appropriate time to go in, because if you fear, it's a problem. The idea of Nephilim, Naflu Panem, what I quoted you before, that people are afraid, is the fear itself. The reason why people lose to them is because whoa, this is scary. And that itself is the reason. But in reality, we saw over here in Yeshua, they were hiding behind their fences when Yeshua was going on knocking places off. He killed the Nephilim last because they were all scared. They were hiding away. They weren't coming and attacking in the first place. They were be'etzim beings of fear. And as we all know, Rachav herself said, Nafli tchem aleinu v'chinamogu v'yamesel v'veinu, we're afraid of you. And that's why Rachav said it, because the fear itself was the reason for the loss. That's itself a reason to lose. Just to mention on this note, just so you know, the Gur Ayin, Parsha Shoiftim, the Maharal says that we know that someone who had a new house or a new vineyard doesn't go to war. So usually you understand, because it's not nice, he's going to go to war and lose, and it's so sad. He's going to lose his wife, and he's going to lose his new house and his new thing. It's a very depressing thing, right? That's why a person who has a new wife doesn't go to war. Also, you have enough war in the house. You don't have to go to war. You have enough war in the house the first year. That's a replacement. But anyway, so that's the thing. But the truth is, says the Goraya, it's the opposite. It's the other way around. It's because the person is so scared because he just got married and this, he's in fear, he's going to lose. That's going to cause him to lose. The fear itself is what caused him to lose. So that says Mephor. I heard this one pshat and it's coming Adar. Misha nichnas Adar, Marvin B'Simcha has two pirushim. If you look, Misha nichnas Adar, Marvin B'Simcha means you should be happy. We're all happy, we get happy. But another pirush is that it's a time of simcha because we have a mazel of simcha. It's a good mazel for us. You don't go. That's a good time to go to Beit Mishpat. That's a good time to go to court as opposed to an Av and Matim Simcha. It's a good mazel for us, and one causes the other because we're so besimcha. Therefore, because Mishayach Hazamar Simcha, therefore it's a mazel of Simcha. One is interconnected with the next. One is a byproduct of the next thing. So Al Kapanim, that is the Yesod of Meraglim, the idea of the Anakim, of these Nephilim. They're there to make you fearful, to scare you off, and to make you run away. And they succeeded by the Meraglim, but they did not succeed by Yehoshua. Yehoshua knew that it's a bluff, plus he had obviously a Kodesh Baruch who told him, and he did whatever he was told to do, and therefore, we had that message that I said last week, which I'm not going to tell you, is the Mesiras Nefesh. When a person's Moser Nefesh, that itself knocks off all Kishuv. Every time, every stage in life, in history. How do we see Navi Sheker when we were Moser Nefesh? By the Kriyas Yamsuf in this week's Parsha. We don't have the koach of the power of black magic of Mitzrayim after Kriyas Yamsuf. Mitzrayim finished, and all that black magic finished with them, because we were Moser Nefesh to jump in the ocean, so therefore that went behind us. And we gave a number of other examples. You can look in last week's shares. But Al Kopanim, that is this idea of the different types of the Anakim and the ones that were around. Okay? Now we find a special note that is given to Sichon and Og, more than everybody else. Why is that? Why are Sichon and Og given this special attendance that we seem to care about them a little bit more? We find even in Tehillim, when we say Ki Lo Elam Chazda, we say it every Shabbat. We say Ki Lo Elam Sichon Melech, we say Sichon and Og Melech Bashan and Sichon Melech Heshbon. Why do we always give a separate credence to these malachim, that they are so great? We know that Moshe Rabbeinu had a special schut to be able to conquer them. He was given a separate thing that he himself was able to conquer. The Ramban in Perek Chaf, Pasuk Yud Aleph, also mentions the idea that they were Shavim B'Gvuratam and they were Anakim. And therefore he says, Rak Og Bel Chabasha Nishar Miyet Rafaim. They were mentioned specially, like we said, I quoted you the psukim over here in Dvarim, that they're quoted something is very miyuchad about these two giants. Why are they segregated from everybody else? So Og, interestingly enough, do you know how old he was when he died? Well, we don't know exactly, but he was no young cookie. Okay, he was pretty old. You know why? Well, it's a very easy cheshbon. We all know he was in the Mabul, which I'll tell you in a second the story, which Baruch Hashem you're familiar with. The Mabul took place in the year 1656, not what you think, right? 1656 from Briat HaOlam, from creation. 1656 from the creation of the world was the Mabul, was the flood. Yitzias Mitzrayim took place in the year 2448. 40 years later, of course, when we're about to go into Eretz Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu kills Og and Sichon. That's when he kills Og and Sichon. So between the time of 1656 till 2488, you have at least 832 years, meaning minimal. Og lived 832 years, and I don't think when he was sitting in the Teva, in the Mabul, he was a young little chap. He was a little bit older than that. He was big either way, but he was older than that. But he was minimally at least approximately 850 years old when he died, probably even 900. He was very old when he did that. How was he saved from the Mabul? So everybody knows the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, a very famous Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer in Chav Gimel, that you should know. Everyone knows. I'm curious to know if you know this detail, though. I'm going to add a detail that. First of all, the darshan. Where's the darshan? It says in the pasuk Vayishaer Ach Noach. Right? We know the Ach Noach. So Rashi says Ach Noach, that Noach got bit by the lion. Ach Noach. But the darshan Ach Noach. Besides Noach, someone else got saved. Who was that? That's Og. Og ended up getting saved. And the Baal HaTorah writes Ach Noach is gematria Og. Og. So we see Og actually got saved by the Teva. Now, first of all, in Kol Kavod, having all the animals in the Teva, how did the guy fit Og inside the Teva? How do you stick an Og inside of the Teva? That's a real tough one, to be able to stick inside of a Teva. So the answer is? So he was sitting outside how? There was a ladder which they all went into the Teva, onto the ladder that they walked up, and he sat on the etz. How did he get fed? Do you know that part? Noach made a little bit of a petach, and he would feed Og. His head was in the teva, believe it or not, and everything he was outside. Now I have a question. They say he was sitting on the ladder, and his legs was in the water. Mamish living on the pina colada. He had his thing as a thing, beautiful, his legs in the water, having a good time there. What's the problem with having most of his body in the water? Now his legs were his legs. It was the size of the Eiffel Tower. So how exactly did he? What's the problem? What's the problem with that? All the water is boiling, piping hot, sizzling, burning water like you have in your pots when you're heating up the thing. But the answer is, says the Midrash, that the Radal says this on the side of the Pirkei Eliezer, all the water around the table was, why did the table get burnt? The answer is all the water around the table was nice and cool. It was like Mamish being on the Atlantic Ocean, sitting on the thing, having a nice thing. I told you, he had his beach towel there, and he was good. He was very comfortable. He was holding on for a full year. I wouldn't want to do it personally, but he was there, and his feet were in the water, and it was not hot in that area. It was hot all around, but not in that area. Og, one second. Og told Noach, do it. First of all, and Noach fed him. Why did Noach feed him? Because the Targum says that he saw that apparently HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to save him. He saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have gotten rid of him very easily, like everybody else, but he didn't. He left him off from the Rephaim. He left him off the last one. So obviously, Noach understood a message from Hashem to hold on to him, and that's why he ended up feeding him. Yes, Daniel. I see it's on
Technical question.
Yeah.
He was hanging on one side.
Yeah.
It's a huge, heavy load.
I hear. Okay, I hear. I have to get. I hear the kasha. Yeah, answer.
There was
I'm listening.
the whole teva.
I'm sorry. I went overtime. I just have to finish this.
It should have sunk anyway. The fact that the teva survived. Anyway, and the fifth.
I apologize for going over time. I'm going to just finish. I'm only 3 minutes. I know. Okay, let me just finish up. I know, but I couldn't help it because it's one piece, so I had to finish. If someone has to go, you can go. By the way, it's fine. Okay, but he was considered inside of the teva because of that idea. Okay, he made a nekev inside of the teva, and that's how he was able to feed him. Like I said, because he realized that's what it is. Now, what was the schus of Og? We all know the schus of Og is because he convinced Avram Avinu, and he saved Lot in order to save Lot. Now Lot, of course, was the harbinger of Ruth, who eventually was going. I don't usually go so overtime. It's one piece, so I feel bad. I have to just finish it. And as we know, the Gemara Nida over there says that he was able to save Lot, and Lot was, of course, that. Now he didn't do it l'shem shamayim. Of course, we know he did it because he wanted Sarah, like you were mentioning before. He wanted Sarah. So since he didn't do it l'shem shamayim, he was outside of the teva. The majority was outside the teva, but he got a piece of it inside of the teva. Meaning, some of him got saved because of the schut that he had, and that's why Moshe Rabbeinu was scared of Og, as we all know. He wasn't scared of Sichon. He was only scared of Og because Og had this special schut behind him, as the Gemara says, and he was a lot older than him also. Moshe Rabbeinu was 120. He was almost 900. This man, but anyways, because of that, and he ended up, as we know, getting reshut, and he ended up killing Og. Now the size of Og was humongous because Moshe Rabbeinu was 10 amas tall, his stick was 10 amas, and he jumped 10 amas tall, which means 15 meters. The whole mindset of jumping and all that, Moshe Rabbeinu jumped 15 meters, and he hit the ankles of Og. So you see, we're talking about someone who was a size quite large, maybe the size of a skyscraper, and therefore he ended up being taken. Now the question is, what happened to Sichon? That's what you were asking before. Og, okay, we all know Og was on the table. Where is the Sichon? How did he survive? Sichon was a brother of Og, and he also made it. So over here comes to the rescue the Das Zakanim Bali Tosas again, or the Moshe Zakanim, also Bali Tosas again. If anyone has to leave, you can leave. I just have to finish this piece at least for the thing. So Tosfot says an answer where Sichon ended up finishing, where ended up being born. Sichon, there's 2 different shatim, by the way, 2 slightly different shatim. Now we know Sichon had relations with the wife of Cham. Now Cham, we know, wasn't the best of guys, right? Shem Cham v'Yafet. Cham, we know, already did some not nice things with Noach. Cham, let's just be stereotypically correct. Shem is he's the father of Jews and also the Arabs and our cousins, etc. We know Yefet is basically the Western world as we know it, to a certain extent, and Cham is of if I'll call it the African world. That's where Cham comes from. Okay. Now Cham comes from the idea of Chamimut. He had a certain interest in ta'avot and lusts. That's where it comes from. Can I say the next part? I'm not allowed to. Okay, no, I'm just saying that runs in the mishpacha. But okay, and then it kind of that's what happens. That's what happened with Cham. So he did that to his father. He actually castrated his father, or he had relations with his father, one of the other. But believe it or not, his wife also was in the same boat, and she ended up having relations with one of these Anakim, one of these Nephilim, and she was the one who had Sichon, meaning she was pregnant with Sichon on the boat. That one you didn't know, huh? She was pregnant with Sichon on the boat. So she was with Cham on the boat, and we know the Chazal tell us that Cham had relations, he cheated. He had relations with his wife also on the boat, because he said, anyway, she's pregnant, so let's cover it up at least, so I might as well have relations with her to cover it up, to be able to do it.
He was probably enormous, and he
Enormous, and Cham wasn't that big, you're saying?
They delivered before, right?
Yeah,
So
it was on the boat. Yeah. Oh, it didn't work out. I told you they all gave,
Probably after a few weeks.
A few weeks, it was already plotting. Okay, anyways, so let's just finish up here. So Sichon ended up being born to Kebiyochel Cham, or Cham's wife, if I could say, and that's where he came from, and that's how he was able to survive the Mabul also. There is another pshat that he came from, that Noach's wife was Nifter, believe it or not, and he married another woman who was the mother of Og, and therefore Sichon actually came from Noach, believe it or not. That's the other pshat, believe it or not. Yeah, something like that. That he came from. So Noach actually married the wife of the mother of Og, and therefore Sichon and Og, who were brothers, came from the same woman. All right, let's leave it. That's okay. And the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says Sichon was okay. That's what he brings. I'm going to cut to the chase here, and that's what it says more or less. Oh, this is painful. I really want to just. Am I allowed to just pull for 3-4 more minutes? Is that okay? I apologize that it's taking long. If you have to go, just go. I have to put it in one film. I can't continue. I can't do it to be continued. It doesn't work. Okay. Basically, that's what happened. You should know the Bir Halacha. That's the Mishnah Berurah in Siman Reishut Chet in Dibur Matchel Ve'evan. He actually writes that when we're talking about saying brachot on different people, he talks about if you see the mountain that as we all know how Og ended up dying. Everyone knows the midrash that he ended up taking the mountain and it fell on top of him and his teeth grew long and then he ended up. That's why he's called Og Melech HaBashan. Did you know that? Bashan is Lashon Shen, Shinayim, teeth, because his buck teeth ended up stopping the mountain. He couldn't take it off and he ended up having it there, and that's how Moshe Rabbeinu was able to kill him. So the Bir Halacha actually brings this idea that Og ended up dying there, and he brings Mefurish. If you didn't know, look in the Bir Halacha and Siman Reishut Chet over there. It talks about making a bracha when you see the mountains or different things, or seeing this oven. Achia ben Shamchazai. He brings that he was the son of Achia, who was the son of ben Shamchazai from the Nephilim, from the Anakim. So you just see Al Pi Halacha also that it was existent. Okay, that's where it comes from. Now, Sichon and Og were the entranceway into Eretz Yisrael, and Moshe Rabbeinu opened the gates. Kebiyochel. That's how it is. He opened the gates. Now, the gates are always something important. We always say Ptach lanu shar be'eit neilas hashar and Revolbi. They always bring this idea that the entrance gate is the ikar place where you're supposed to do it by Ne'ilah. That's the Ne'ilah is the gates that we're always focused on. We know that Mordechai coming soon in Purim was Yoshev Bishar Ha'ir, the entranceway. And when you go into the house, you go in through the mezuzah. So they were the mezuzah. Sichon ve'og were the kilu, the mezuzah. In the front of the ear, they were the protectors of Eretz Yisrael. They had to break the mezuzah. They had to break Sichon ve'og in order that we would be able to entrance. And incredibly interesting, we know Shakai is written on the front of our mezuzahs, and on the back, you ever look in the back of the parchment, there's a esoteric letters written on the back, right, of the thing? If you look underneath, there's always the letters. It's kind of a name of a Kodesh Baruch. I'm not sure exactly, but it's Chavav Zavan. It's Kuzu. You're allowed to say the name. I think I was of a suffix if you're allowed to say the name, but it says the name. It says 3 names over there. Okay, Kuzu and Kuzu. Yeah, those letters Chavav Zayin Aleph, and then afterwards are all the next letter after you say Hashem Elokim Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokim Yud Kei Vav Kei. If you take the next letter, the letter after Yud is Chaf. The letter after Hey is Vav. That's the letters over there. Kuzu. It's a very Kabbalistic name, and you put it on the petach of your shars. As the says the Bnei Yissaschar that the gematria of that letter name of Kuzu, that whole and letter name is the same gematria as Og and Sichon. Same gematria as Og and Sichon, because they are on the petach of the delet. They're the ones who are protecting the delet. And you have to get rid of this tumah. They were the Sitra Achra protecting, and that's how we're able. That's obviously Kabbalistic ideas. That's an interesting concept to be able to protect them from the thing, and that's how they're able to do it. I'm mamish finishing up here. Let me just mamish finish. 2 short, very quick points. The Maisa Rav, the Vilna Gaon, speaks out that there are 5 types of Anakim. We already mentioned the Rephaim, the Nephilim, and the Anakim. He adds also there's the Giborim and the Amalekim. Amalekim we know, they're fine, the Amalekim, but he adds the Giborim. He says these are Keneged the Erev Rav, who are the ones who are, the Erev Rav have 5 signs. Tell me if you know someone who has these 5 signs. Yes, I spoke about it on Tisha B'Av. If you want to see my Tisha B'Av speech, I spoke about the Erev Rav during all the protests before everything was happening, but listen to these 5 signs of being from the Erev Rav. First of all, you have to hate Torah. You're against people who are learning Torah. You try to chase after Torah. They're roidfei kavod. They're interested in only their kavod. They're roidfei ta'avot. They're interested in their time. Ein toichen kebarim. They're not. Their pnimiyut and their chitoniyut are not the same. They're ein toichen kebarim. They're hypocritical. They don't act as the way you do outside. They pretend and say we're here for the people, but they're really into it themselves. And last but not least, and definitely not least, they're bali machlokets. They like to make machloket. They like to be keneged the machloket. Says the Vilna Gaon that's keneged these 5 levels of the. He says Amalekim, bali machloket. I can tell you each one very quickly if you want. Mamash, the Amalekim is a bali machloket. The Nephilim are the people who chase after ta'avot, like we spoke about before. The Giborim are the ones who are always chasing the kavod. The Rephaim are the ones who are marpe limu Torah. They'll do anything to cut any penny they can get from Talmud Torah. They're spending $1 billion shekel a day on this war. They wanted to cut 20 million shekel from all the teachers of the basic who are making literally 5,000 shekel, or that they wanted to cut out, that they would lose 1,000 shekel from their salaries, from only and specifically the Haredi salaries, because they do Ofek Hadash. They were working, how much would they save from the whole thing? 20 million shekel. It's not even a 0.000 percentage of what this war is costing. And even Netanyahu got upset about it. He said, enough. Must speak with your tzviyut. If you, I remember hearing him saying, ad kidei kach, you can't exaggerate. And Hakim, he said, is connected, of course, it's Tzvuim, we're talking Kabarim, of course, we realize who I'm speaking about are some politicians and people that do that, but that is the yesod that comes out here. I'm just going to ice for here and finish with this. But this all has to do, very similar, this is my own kind of theory, and the truth is I could really dialogue here a lot on this part there, but when we come to the dinosaurs, and there's a big question if the dinosaurs really existed or didn't exist, I don't know, and I'm not going to tell you, but you should know there are a number of midrashim in the end of Parashat Bereshis which speak about, even by Tevis Noach, that he had things which were 50 meters tall, and he had big animals which were in it. The Re'im was a humongous monster. This thing was very, and a number of the midrashim speak about it. Og, Bel, Chabash, and Sichon, all these things, we see clearly that there were big creatures. So when you see these creations of a Brontosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex, whenever I see, I'm in LA, we have a museum there where they have the actual bones, the structure of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they put it together, whatever they have, whether it's from what it is. And I always think, wow, maybe that was Og. I always said that looked like Og to me. I was like, picture, he looks like an Og, the thing, with the hands, and Mamish looks like, I don't see why there can't be an Og Melech B'Hashem. The only problem is, what about the dating, the carbon dating? So it seems to be, one second, it seems to be clear, my favorite pshat, there's a number of pshatim, but the Malbim is the best pshat. The Malbim in Parshas Noach, he says a very straightforward pashup pshat. He says, as we all know, the waters were boiling, piping hot retichot. It destroyed all the layers of soil in the ground. All the carbon dating got botched up legamri from the Mabil and on. You could start counting from after the Mabil maybe, but from everything, all these giants that were around before the Mabil. So you found bones, but your timing is off. So even if you want to date it to millions of years, it's completely based on a test which is assuming the soil always stayed the same and had no effective. And of course we know that that's not true. I very much apologize for going over time. I will bleed.